So in the last video we talked about disengaging or disconnecting our hips from our opponent's hips by either kneeling upright a little bit more or actually moving into that high mount and how that works conceptually. But now we're going to look at actually shutting our opponent's bridge down by creating a ton of hip pressure and by accessing the levers of the body up by the head and the legs. So just for the purposes of the bridge, if Kevin bridges and holds, the points of contact with the ground right now are his feet driving upwards, his frames, and he's got his neck and his shoulders against the floor here, his base, and his hips are driving up. What we're going to be looking at doing with hooking the legs is actually reverse engineering this bridge, where I would theoretically try and lift his legs up like this while lifting his head up like this, so that now the 2 points of contact that he would have with the ground normally are in the air, and his hips are now on the ground. If I could keep him locked like this completely, if Kevin tried to bridge right now, he has no ability to. And so that's what we're going to be looking to accomplish while we're utilizing the hooks from full mount. So I'm in full mount, and whether my opponent is starting to thrash around or I feel like I'm going to lose the position, or I need to rest for a bit, I need to be able to solidify this position and hold it long enough for points, what we're going to do is actually start flattening out and extending our legs in underneath our opponent's hamstrings to hook. So I'm going to take my hands and I'll put them onto the mat to start shifting a bit of the weight into my upper body so that my knees can become light, so that I can open up my knees and kick my legs through to hook here. If I try and just stay upright like this, obviously the weight is into my knees right now and I'm not as mobile. Shift the weight into your upper body so that we can extend the legs through. Now, my legs can be together like a prayer. I can cross them if I want. It's going to be creating me a closed circuit that's going to allow me a lot of force now to be able to lift my knees off the mat, trying to lift up at the crook of his knees and his legs, and have my hips drive heavy into his hips. What I don't want is my knees on the mat here, because I have weight uselessly transferring with gravity into my knees into the mat. I want everything isolated into Kevin's hips right now. By lifting up his legs, I'm making it harder for him to actively drive them into the mat as frames to generate base. And by driving my hips into Kevin's hips, it makes it much more difficult now for him to try and bridge. As Kevin tries to bridge right now, he'll be able to always a little bit, and obviously the bigger the size difference and strength gap, we're going to have to account for that. But I am certainly making him less effective than he normally would be. If we just turn, so as I'm here, leg hooks through, I can absolutely manage one leg at a time, but if I cross my feet, I will create a closed circuit and it will make me stronger to be able to lift up. From here, Kevin tries to bridge, and I'm just focusing on that hip pressure. We can absolutely add the head control as well, but focus a little bit on trying to control with just the legs right now. So when we're utilizing the hooks to deny our opponent base, we want to understand the direction of which they're trying to rotate over to turn up to their knees or reverse us, and where the power is really coming from. A bridge is not me lifting my hips and trying to turn directly onto my side. I'm very weak in this motion. A bridge is lifting my hips and driving up at a 45-degree angle to turn over top of my shoulder. The power of that is coming from my opposing leg. If I'm trying to turn over my right shoulder, it's my left leg that is driving a continuous force vector from the ground through to my right shoulder and then switching over. So if I did this with one leg, I could still actually be quite effective driving base this way and being able to complete this motion. If I try and do the bridge with the same leg, right leg to go over right shoulder, I can, and it's an important thing to work on, to be able to work on our inverting and being able to bridge and turn back over. But when we're dealing with an opponent in full mount, and potentially bigger and stronger or more technical than us, this is not going to be enough to be able to make that roll happen. If I'm looking at stopping Kevin from being able to bridge and turn over to his left side, and I'm only utilizing one hook, or I'm focusing on a leg, if I'm hooking his left leg right now, and my right leg is just, or my left leg is just gonna be floating around, if I'm holding this and Kevin bridges hard and turns to his left, I wasn't able to stop him. But now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to shift my center of gravity a little bit off to the side. I'm gonna have this leg hooking his right leg, and I'm just gonna try and keep this leg out of the way. I'll just keep it hooked, but I'm not gonna actively be using it. As Kevin tries to now bridge and turn me to his left, significantly harder because I'm pinning that side of the hip to the mat. If he tried to go the other way, I shift my center of gravity a little bit over to that side of his shoulder and hip, and I'm hooking that leg aggressively and lifting up to increase the pressure on that side of the hip, so as he tries to turn, he's not going to be able to. He switches sides. I highly recommend doing this without using your arms for a bit while you're trying to build the sensitivity to it. Here, holding, and as your opponent tries to turn, I'm increasing the pressure on the opposite leg of which they're trying to turn in order to make them extremely weak. When we start to build the sensitivity and the comfortability to be able to shift our hips and ride without using our arms at all, it's the same as if we develop the ability to do guard retention with no arms. We're gonna maximize our ability in that one specific area, and then when we are rolling and we're able to use the rest of our weapons, then we're gonna be ultimately way more effective.